Now, Paper Planes. Congratulations. This thing really took off.
Thanks, Jam.
At what point were you relieved?
I was relieved at 11 a.m. on the first day of the release, and it was the most terrifying experience. No one said it could be done. People didn't really want to make it. They said Hollywood films are massive. There was a Pixar film, there was a DreamWorks film. They're all the biggest films in the world out. People said it could, and also people said Australian audiences wouldn't go because they could see the American stuff. And we spent a lot of money on it. Roadshow, who I loved working with, they don't discriminate. They just said it's a great film. We'll put it out with The Hobbit, which they were also releasing. And I got a call from Joel Perlman at Roadshow at 11 o'clock saying that he had had a call from a chain of exhibitors, and at 10 o'clock, he'd had a call from him at 9 a.m. to say that the 10 o'clock session at Castle Hill in New South Wales on the first day of the release had sold out. And he said, that's it. Kids want to see this film. And from there on, we just rode this amazing, journey.
It took just over $10 million
That's
in
right.
Australia.
Yeah.
Now, when we were talking about this film, you said that one of the reasons you made it was because there was a lack of Australian family films.
Yeah.
We now find ourselves, Robert Connolly, with Oddball out there,
Fantastic.
kicking goal after goal every weekend, and Screen Australia putting out a call for submissions. We want more Australian films. Look at the influence you have had, because had it not been for Paper Planes, Oddball would have been a one-off. But now that there's that, Oddball and Blinky Bill, now we might actually have a genre being reborn.
I know. It's really exciting. I think, what I understand with Oddball, they were able to get a lot of cinemas to play it because Paper Planes have been a success and the cinemas had seen that. And then the next film will have the same. And now I think we'll start seeing exhibition, increasingly embrace these films when they're making 10 million plus, and also when there's demand, when young parents are coming in going, what's the Australian film coming out? And I'm really excited to be part of that. It's fantastic success. And, looking to the future, I've really got a big question. If those kids' films are working, the next challenge is finding films for teenage audiences. I think everyone's now saying to me, "Oh, you can't compete again against the Hunger Games and Transformers. How can you compete?" And I don't know. I revisited the year my voice broke recently, which I saw when I was younger. There were films that the Nadia Tass and David Parker made, like Malcolm and the Big Steal, Looking for Alla Brandy. Massive hit. I just think we can make them, but if we've got an audience now that 10-year-olds who are seeing Paper Planes and Oddball, Blinky, they're going to grow up with Australian films now. So just see what happens next. I think we're seeing where every week the number one and the number two films take about 80% of the box office. Massive big hits, and there's a whole heap of other films that are in the next sphere, and I think we can really punch above our weight, as has been shown this year. And as you say, audiences have a diverse appetite. People don't just want to see. I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of gravitate with my family to a whole range of films. And I liken it to a bookshop. You go into a bookshop, and the front bookshop, there's big blockbuster books, Tom Clancy, John Grisham. But there's people wandering around the bookshop, looking on. It's the same with music. So that excites me.
What's going right with Australian film this year?
I think it's all about diversity. I think that we've made a diverse year. I think Australian audiences just got sick of, we have a big comedy, then the next year there's 50 million comedies. And the next year we have a crime film, then the next year, there's 50 million comedies. I think this year it's been really diverse. And that reflects us as a country. At one end you can have one of our great filmmakers like George Miller bring in a humongous film like Mad Max. And then you can have kids' films coming along. You can have people returning to, films for the first time in a long time, like Neil Armfield, or, kind of smaller films about important things.
Last Cab to Darwin.
Jeremy Sims, who just yet again proves that he's got a great kind of, barometer of kind of these stories that speak to Australia outside of the cities. You look at the figures outside the cities, I think he really does amazing work. So, So then you go, well, okay, let's look at how the success happened this year. Well, it's diverse. It's across a whole heap of different types of films.
Also, along with the quality, they were marketed. People knew they were there.
Yeah.
We didn't have that last year. Last year was a very sketchy year in terms of letting people know that the movies were there.
Yeah, I think that success also breeds success, you know. I think it's, you know, I remember someone telling me down in Woolloomooloo in Sydney, there was a pub down there for many years, was the only pub. And through some liquor licensing aberration, another pub could set up across the road. And they were furious because they thought they'll steal each other's, you know, kind of business. But what happened was, by having two pubs next to each other, everyone went, oh, there's pubs down there. And it went up for both of them. And I feel like it's a bit like that with Australian films. You begin the year with, I think, The Water Diviner, Paper Planes, Mad Max. By March, people are seeing a lot of Australian films. It's easier to market to that audience because they're enjoying it.
Now, we've got some work to do right now.
Okay.
Because one of the unfortunate byproducts of this being a good year is that all the discussion about what's going right with Australian film has allowed the re-emergence, Robert Connolly, of one of the ugliest and stupidest cliches about Australian film, that it goes in cycles. This is nonsense, demonstrably nonsensical. Yep. It's stupid. We have to kill it now because it is such a counterintuitive and stupid thing to say that the quality of Australian films, their connection with audiences, goes through some unavoidable cycle. That's where crazy. It doesn't matter what you do, it's a cyclical thing. It's stupid. I've got my reasons why it's stupid. Tell me why you think it's stupid, having just put words in your mouth.
I think what happens is our box office percentage is given too much kind of value and then that creates this appearance of a cycle. And that really is because the box office peaks whenever one of our massive directors makes a huge multi-$100 million film. So Baz Luhrmann makes Australia or The Great Gatsby, those years spike. I mean, these are $200 or $300 million films. George Miller makes his film Mad Max. And so those filmmakers are on a cycle. They don't make a film, they finish that film and then it takes another 3 years to make a film. But it's crazy to think that the audience is interested in their bigger cycle. I mean, I would argue, go for diversity, make sure every year has that diversity. Let's have some more big tent poles. I want to see some of those filmmakers make some more films. You know, I'd love to see it. And then I know myself, you know, I mean, it's really hard to get films up. You know, Paper Planes took 5 years to get made. I mean, I'm trying to work on how do you collapse the distance between your film. You know, Paper Planes is a big success. We know all those kids loved it. I'm working on a sequel, which is, believe it or not, about paper boats. But it's a different film, and I go, well, if that comes out in 5 years, I've lost the momentum. You know, I think there's something to be said for us having more of an agenda of kind of capturing success and pushing it ahead. I mean, someone early in my career said, you know, getting Australian films funded, it's like the UN rolls into town. They're throwing a loaf of bread off the back of the bus. When you've got your loaf and eaten it, you have to go to the back of the queue before you make your next one. Other cultures reward success.
Are you going to be taking advantage of this Screen Australia initiative to get backing for paper boats?
I think I probably won't need to. I think they've invited me to come and talk on some panels at it. I think that maybe is kind of designed for like some, you know, people that are trying to do it for the first time.
Okay.
But you're right. It'll be just as hard every time. Every film, you know, but there's something someone said to me early in my career, which I love. In the film industry, everyone wants to be the first person to do something second. You know, and I think there is a real danger in gravitating to where the success is. I think there's a slight danger in saturating the market with kids' films like we've done in the past. Oh, comedy's worked. Oh, I think one or two really good strategic films in the school holidays. And let's work on the other genres. Sci-fi, Jim. The Australian sci-fi. Come on, mate. We've got to come up with that.
We can do it.
Why don't we make sci-fi?